Hello and welcome to new edition of One on Urban Update. Today we are in Lucknow, the state capital of Uttar Pradesh, the most populated state of India. Today we are going to cover an unusual, unconventional subject that we generally have not been covering till now. We are going to look at the rural and urban linkages and how if we are addressing the issues of rural India, we can address urban problems also. Today we are with Additional Chief Secretary and the head of Sugarcane Department of Uttar Pradesh Government, Sri Sanjay R. Pusaredi. We are going to talk about some key aspects of how the welfare of farmers are linked to the future of cities and our urban spaces. So we would like to know from you, because you are doing a very unique program. You are taking a very unique initiative in which you are making plastic roads in rural India, providing a connect to rural farmers to the market. And the sugarcane department in last few years, they have constructed approximately 800 kilometers roads and using plastic that is quite unique for villages. You are solving two issues. You are connecting farmers and you are also providing waste management to urban stakeholders. So what is this program and how the sugarcane department is involved in this?
See, I was in housing and urban planning from 2000 to 2005. So at that point of time, the solid waste management came. Since then, we are seeing that landfill sites, disposal of solid waste, it is a big challenge to any urbanization which is taking place in any civilization. Now, what we have found that plastic is becoming a big nuisance. It is easy to say not to use plastic, but in some form plastic is being used of different microns. Now how do you recycle it? That's an issue. It's not biodegradable, it's a non-degradable. It creates its own problems which all of us know, choking of nalas. It has adverse effect on animals, even cow sometimes eats plastic along with food which is given to an animal. So thereby it enters into the food chain of many animals also. It is even damaging the oceans we have seen. Now how do we recycle it? So when in Uttar Pradesh, the cane department is very uniquely placed that we also construct inter-village connectivity roads for the farmers, as you had said, to ensure supply of cane to the market. So that road gets connected to some state highway or national highway or a ODR, other district road, or our district roads. Now, when we have 9,000 kilometers of roads in Uttar Pradesh, it's a big number, and when we are not repairing it or reconstructing it or laying of new roads, we have started using plastic since 18-19. 17-18 was my first year, but 18-19 we started on a pilot at Sitapur. Then we found it successful because we had to get the technology into the department of using plastic. It is not that you pick up some plastic from anywhere and you put it in bitumen and grit and put it. It is you have to buy plastic of a particular type which has particular strength, because these roads has to bear load. So then we have to get to these technological institutes and technology institutes and ask them what type of plastic. So it is a reprocessed plastic. They buy and collect all the plastics, they reprocess it, and they make grains of a particular size, just like the grit. When you go and see on road, wherever road is being paved or laid, you see a grit is used of stone. So similar grit is used, but which are smaller in size. That is added to bitumen, and then it is added with grit and the road is laid. The advantage is that because you use plastic, the adhesivity of the road gets strengthened. It has very good adhesive quality, unlike bitumen. A bitumen road, the moment it will have good amount of water in it, it will get damaged. You do whatever. There is no other way. But when you add bitumen with plastic grains, like we have wheat as a grain, similarly you have those plastic grains, you add that with bitumen, it gets molted, then you add grit. So the adhesiveness of that grit with bitumen gets compounded by this plastic, and the plastic road has better life compared to a bitumen road, especially where it rains heavily or where there is water. The moment water would come on a bitumen road, it will get damaged, but the moment you add plastic, it gets. Secondly, as you had rightly said, it is very environmentally friendly. You have solved a problem which is a very chronic problem with all urbanizations, all urban centers. Third, it also saves you on your foreign exchange. You don't buy bitumen because that is from crude oil, so you save a lot on foreign exchange. So you have three major advantages. You have an environmental solution, you have a better roads which do not get damaged because of rains, and third is that you save on foreign exchange.
And the fourth, we can say that connecting farmers to the market.
And yes, that's the final objective of connecting farmers to the market.
So I want to understand, because this is very unique concept, and that is being used by the cane department. So where did you get this idea from, and who is providing you this technological support in this project?
I knew plastic being used into it, but I had not seen it in any of the departments during my course of service. But I was knowing it. So I told in 1819 that this year we will make plastic road. So first of all, we didn't knew which type of plastic, where to get that plastic, where do you get this specific, what would be the technology, how it would be added. So I sent my team to the state engineering institutes where this technology was available at Kanpur and Roorkee, and from there and plus some other institutes, they came to know how exactly this work has to be done. We did a pilot of 600 meters at Sitapur. It was great successful. My people learned on job how to do it, and then once you know the protocols, then it becomes very easy. And we knew the market where you get, and in government the biggest thing is price. How much do you pay? Because anybody can allege that you have done some siphoning of funds. So at what rate I buy the plastic? If I buy the plastic at costlier to bitumen, again there would be a problem of audits. So I had to ensure that the road is cheaper than bitumen, sturdier than bitumen, so that my farmers they have always a road. It's not that I make a road, next rains it washed away or damaged, and my farmers don't have a good road to market their produce to the markets, various markets, or basically our markets are sugar mills.
Talking about technology and sugarcane farming, so there is also growing demand. Since we are talking about mobility, I will extend this question. This solving urban mobility problems, sugarcane department can have a role, and that has been promoted by Union Minister of Road Transport and Highways, Nitin Gadkari, in his constituency Nagpur, where he has started using ethanol for public buses. So, since Uttar Pradesh is a very crucial state and a lot of farmers are dependent on sugarcane farming, so and you are holding a very important post in the state. So, how do you see that ethanol or biofuel can improve the condition of sugarcane farmers and also provide an environment friendly and economical solution to the local bodies or the transport department?
See, this ethanol blending program came in around 2000. The first ethanol blending program was initiated by the then Chief Minister of UP when the Petroleum Ministry invited him at Bombay to kickstart the ethanol blending program. At that point of time, we decided for a 10%. Since then, slowly and slowly, we are learning new technologies and we are doing better and better and better. We started with a very small number, the whole of India. But today, I would say that UP had started producing ethanol from C-heavy molasses in 1780. We were producing around 25 crore liters of ethanol, which we jumped from 25 to 15, 18, 19, 17, 18. We had in 18, it was all C-heavy molasses, from C-heavy molasses. Then from 1819 we piloted on 2 projects in 2 sugar mills. We produced ethanol from B-heavy, which means you produce more ethanol,
Okay.
and you produce 15% less sugar. See, sugar is in abundance. So we wanted to control the production of sugar or reduce the production of sugar, and therefore we reduced the sugar production by 15% and we increased ethanol into mills at Dhampur and Brijnathpur. And then thereafter we found it a very good experiment and we jumped from that to 28 mills. From 28 last year, now we are into 54 mills. So from 2 mills in 1819, 1920, 28 mills, 2021, 54 mills. Next year we would be around 75 producing ethanol. So that's the quantum jump. So from 25 crore liter to 50 crore liter to 100 crore liter. Now we are at 160 crore liters. So UP is one of the major or biggest player along with Maharashtra in supplying ethanol. We even take care of the share of other states which are not producing ethanol, so that whatever petrol is supplied to those in those states, ethanol blended petrol is available in those like Kerala and other non-sugar producing states. Though Government of India has lately come with ethanol from damaged grains and other agricultural products like potato and other things.
Because this is again the question where we can save foreign exchange. Because if we are using ethanol blended petrol, we will definitely save some Indian money. But my question is very specific. When we are just focusing on using those in public transport buses. So please, because to my understanding, Uttar Pradesh is not using biofuel in its public transport buses right now. There are I think in Nagpur is the only city which is using ethanol run buses. Biofuel. So despite being the one of the largest producer of ethanol, so because I know that is not your department, but you can produce.
But what I am seeing is that we have started using CNG buses in UP since last few years. Now we have switched over to electrical vehicles.
Yes.
So Lucknow, if you see around Lucknow today, you will find a lot number of, rather majority buses now are on, they are EV buses, electrically. That is what you will find. But we are also experimenting on bio CNG and ethanol. Buses driven with ethanol. There is an experiment going on at the national level to blend ethanol in addition to petrol in diesel.
Okay.
The day that project gets cracked, we can enhance our bioethanol production in a big way, and that would help all the farmers, because not one grain or a potato or a sweet potato will go wasted, because then everything will get converted into fuel or some economic product.
Talking about technologies, now when we look at cities and when we look at our villages, we see stark contrast. in terms of facilities available in villages, in terms of if we say that access to civic services, access to infrastructure is poor, because people if they want to educate their child, they move to cities. They want to become economically prosper, they move to cities. So cities are attracting villages. So how do you see now that if we use technology in agriculture, in sugarcane farming specifically, we can tell us about, so how we can improve the situation on ground of the farmers and overall village ecosystem, so that people need not to go to cities?
See, it's a very complex issue, and one has been struggling from 1991 when I joined the service. I was posted in rural sector, urban sector, agriculture sector in Government of India, plus again here. If you read literature, or if you really see the reason why urban centers attract, we will have to accept the fact that urban centers have a magnetic attraction to it, in terms of glitter, in terms of glamour, in terms of, as you said, services, better services, and so on and so forth. Actually, we had de-glamorized the rural sector by over-glamorizing the urban sector. Therefore, what I have started doing, that I have initiated a program in which we give prizes of a handsome amount from the hands of the Honorable Chief Minister to young farmers. First we started with male farmers. Then last year we started a women entrepreneurship program, whereby women are also into sugarcane seed production, which is for the first time we have experimented, and it's a huge success. Now, after that, we said we will give, it was a common, gender neutral, young farmer, sugarcane farmer. He will get the best technologies he adopts. He shouldn't be an ordinary farmer. He should adopt 5 of our major technologies, which we call Panchamrit. In that, he had to use ratoon management technology, trench method, and so on and so forth. 5, which I'll tell you afterwards. And if he does good farming, we select him as a state level champion, young farmer. Now we have put 2 categories in that. 3 male young farmers and 3 female girls as young, boys and girls who join farming. We have to give some respect to farming. We have to bring in some glamour to farming. And I'm happy that some of my girls who have got into it, due to lockdown they were at home, but they were studying in Lucknow University. Now, once I came to know of this fact later, when they told in one of an interview that I am studying in Lucknow University, but because of lockdown I am here. I am now relishing this work. I am enjoying this work. So therefore, then we came up with this idea of giving prize, selecting 3 best young girls who adopt cane farming. We have to give respect to agricultural sector. It has become that, like in earlier days, अगर कोई कुछ नहीं कर रहा है तो लॉ कर रहा है, तो it is like that. कोई कुछ नहीं कर रहा है तो लेबर कर रहा है या वो कर रहा है. Like in US and European countries, it is respect to labor, dignity to labor, which is unfortunately is missing. Now once we do that, the whole ecosystem will start changing. Till then it will not. Let me tell you one major fact. When I joined the service in Uttar Pradesh, the situation in rural was not, especially in terms of infrastructure, was very poor. Was not up to what it is today. It was very poor. But let me tell you, now we have closed drainages in UP. People may have a wrong idea of Uttar Pradesh. I would request people to go into rural areas this year and see for themselves that we have closed drainages in UP. We have no open nalas flowing. We have closed drainages. We have proper hume pipe drainage systems in UP for drain water and so on and so forth. So closed latrines, proper modern latrines or toilets. So now it is not that Uttar Pradesh or a rural area
That used
where
to-
people used to think कि जो हिंदी फिल्म में ब्लैक एंड वाइट में देखते थे मनोज कुमार की और वो नहीं है अब काफ़ी इट्स क्वाइट डेवलप्ड इट हैज़ इट्स ओन either a brick road or a tar road or a CC road also.
Talking about youngsters in farming, now there is also a growing trend, especially because of pandemic. Now people are concerned about what they are eating.
Yeah.
So people are concerned now. Therefore, when they buy stuff, they look for is it organic or is it healthy, or how it is grown. So they want to know how it is. It has been grown, who has grown it, where it is coming from. So do you think that this kind of awareness on eating healthy food can transform agriculture and because and the farmers will get that kind of respect that we want.
See, today, 30, 40 years back, the farmer had very less opportunity to market his produce or sell his produce. See, that is his basic concern. I produce whatever should get sold and should get sold at a better remunerative price. Today, I see some of my good farmers, jaggery farmers, they sell jaggery, you won't believe, at 400 rupees a kg to Amazon, and their product gets sold in advance. We had a good motsa at Lucknow. The jaggery producers, farmers, they got an order of 8 crores in advance, and people took their cards. They said we will get it parceled at your destination through these parcel systems. So that is now the situation, and many of our farmers who are producing organic, their products are getting sold. The only thing is we have to train a farmer to marketing techniques. Farmers who have picked up these marketing techniques are making mullah. They are making good money. You go and see in Barabanki, I can show you my farmers, or near Delhi, they are selling. We have introduced intercropping in sugarcane. I told you that Panchamrit. So there is intercropping, there is trash mulching so that moisture retains and nitrogen fixation is there. Then ratoon management. In sugarcane is a 2-year crop. It can be also for 3 years. So first year is a crop. Second year it's ratoon. So that is how the plant crop and the ratoon crop. So ratoon management has to be done. So then drip irrigation. So these 5 elements we have introduced. Now you go, they are selling tomatoes worth lakhs of rupees to Delhi, gladii and other flowers, marigold, they are selling peas. Now even they have experimented with papaya. In books, agronomical books, you find sugarcane with potato, but they are doing garlic, they are doing all sorts of things, lesun, adrak, tomato, you name it, tomatoes, you name it. So they are earning money, they are getting good value for their produce, and now they have realized that if you do farming in an intellectual manner, you can make good money.
So you rightly said that if farmers can use technology and the advanced methods of agriculture and also learn how to market their products, they can earn money. But when we talk about the issues of farmers, especially in Uttar Pradesh, that is a very politically and social complex issue. So it is when we talk about these issues, it has some political and social connotations. And so what are the major welfare schemes during your tenure that you have taken for their benefit, and how are these initiatives changing situation on ground? Some examples you have already told, but what are these schemes?
See, what happened when I joined, I found that there were lots of mafias in the state, which we call cane mafias. What they used to do, we have around 9 to 10 lakh very small farmers. These small farmers wouldn't get cane purchase, cane slips to supply their cane to the sugar mill. Cane is supplied directly to the sugar mill. So they never used to get purchase. So what they would go, either they would go to some local politician or somebody, public representative, and try to get a cane slip, or he would go and sell it to the sugarcane mafia. Then the sugarcane mafia would collect a lot of sugarcane and supply it to the mill. Thereby the sugarcane would also become stale and the mill would also incur into losses. What we did, we introduced a technology, and we developed an enterprise resource planning, which we call Smart Ganna Kisan. And thereby we stopped using the paper purchase, the paper cane slips. Now it's all SMS. Every farmer now gets an SMS. You will be surprised that out of my 45.44 lakh farmers who are supplying sugarcane in the last 2-3 years and this year also, 44 lakh farmers have an Android phone and have an app on there which is called eGanna app. They come to know everything from that. How much their bond has been fixed. Bond has been fixed means how much cane they have to supply to the mill, what time the cane slips would come, so on and so forth. So now with the introduction of technology, the whole politics of sugarcane got changed. The whole politics was because of non-availability of cane slips to genuine farmers. So that we have just removed in one stroke by using a very good technology, and that has helped the cane farmers. You can go and interview any cane farmer around Ghaziabad or Meerut, they will tell you wherever we are. Then what we did, we also had an online Khansari. So that Goad and Khansari, suppose few farmers have surplus cane, the sugar mill will buy X quantity, which is the bonded cane. The unbonded cane, he should have an alternative market. So we created a very good Khansari licensing portal. Again a technology, introduction of use of technology, and we have 267 new Khansari units. So there Khansari is so you can say a poor sister of sugar, between jaggery and sugar. So that plants have come up. Then we have introduced, like I told, for the farmers we had used we connected with M-Kisan portal of Government of India, from where they get all technological helps, they get all weather information, they get all information about disease, everything they get. So they are all connected to that, and so on and so forth. Then we gave them farm machinery bank, which means if you are poor, you don't have a farm machinery, you go buy it on rent, do your work and give it. It's on a very reasonable rate per hour. Then we had in which we give them trench method, because see, sugarcane, if you grow line after line, people think you will grow more sugarcane. No, you will grow less sugarcane. So if you space them around 4.5 feet, you grow more sugarcane, and in this 4.5 feet you do intercropping. In the meanwhile, you grow a 60-day tomato or a 30-day tomato or a brinjal or a gobi, cauliflower, like that. So all these step intercropping you can do. So trench maker we had introduced. Then ratoon management device we have introduced. Similarly, automatic sprayers we have introduced. So they can get this from farm machinery bank. And then, as I said, we have worked on a big scale on drip irrigation, because the biggest criticism of sugarcane is it guzzles water. It's a water guzzler. So we have introduced drip irrigation. People will think in drip irrigation you will save water. It's more than that. You save water, you save money. Along with a drip, in a drip plant, there is a fertigation bottle or an attachment, whereby you put your fertilizers and pesticides. Now when it is dot on the spot, the fertilizer or the pesticide, the consumption goes less. So you get the use of pesticide and fertilizer gets reduced by 60%. So he saves on very costly input, agriculture input. So his cost goes by 50 to 60%. On water it goes by 50%. So he earns that much of money. When you say doubling the farmer's income, there are only two methods. You get him a better remuneration or you reduce the cost.
That is incorrect.
Right? So this Panchamrit ke through हम लोगों ने what we have done to introduce all these 5 elements of drip irrigation, ratoon management device, trench methodology, intercropping, trash mulching. There is a trash mulcher also. So all this we give to them through the farm machinery bank. Ratoon management device, trash mulching and trench opening. So all these things we give them through farmer. So once we did this, his cost of cultivation had gone down, his money, his incomes have gone up. So that's how you double the farmer's income.
Doubling farmers' income and because when I am looking at this issues of farmers, I am also looking at urban issues, because the problem of cities cannot be addressed only in cities.
Yeah.
If we are not able to arrest migration in rural areas and villages, we cannot solve the problems of cities. So, because you have been part of urban development department and also transport department, so how do you see that in the long term, because Uttar Pradesh is still not as urbanized as Tamil Nadu or Kerala or Maharashtra. It's still very, I think 30%, less than 30% it is urbanized. So how do you see over in the times to come, what will be the situation in Uttar Pradesh and how rural areas are going to play an important role in urban development? That is a very complex question, because rural areas playing role in urban development. How do you see that?
We have to understand, India is a very difficult mosaic or a different mosaic. Kerala, do you see where the city starts and village ends, or village starts and city ends? No. It's the same Kerala from Trivandrum to North Kerala. So every state is unique in its own way. Maharashtra, the placement of Maharashtra, the placement of its cities is quite unique. It is very state specific. It is difficult to compare, and we should not compare, in my view, in my humble view. Why do you want to urbanize? Because, see, the biggest challenge which, when I was in urban planning department, that more the urbanization is okay, but if the density and intensity of urbanization increases, you have different types of urban problems and they are very difficult to solve. Again, coming back to this drainage and sewerage. The drainage management, sewerage management, STP, sewerage treatment plant, solid waste management, they becomes huge challenge. Instead of developing very big towns, and you see every town there is an economy of scale. Up to some point it gives you an advantage. When any town, say Lucknow, is increasing in its size and space, up to some point it will help you in terms of the urban benefits of bringing close, reducing the transport cost and so networking. But when the city grows beyond 50-60 kilometers, then it is no good to stay in such cities, because then you will be on roads for half of your time during the day transporting, right? Then you will have to think of work from home sort of a solution in future. In metros in Delhi and Assam, Bombay, life becomes very difficult. Your major time gets wasted in traveling and traffic jams. Therefore, we should not concentrate on urbanizing every space of the state or the country. We should create good infrastructure in rural areas and make people comfortable in that rural area. What was the magnet to come to urban? It is, especially in some states, it was Naxalism, which was driving people from rural to urban areas. mega cities or metros. Second is basic infrastructure,
health,
health,
education,
education,
livelihood.
livelihood, and then electricity, potable water. Now, once you supply potable water and 24 hours electricity, if not 24 hours, 20 hours electricity, and if you provide them in their proximity health and education, people will not think of migrating, leaving their ancestral property. Because everybody in India at least is connected to its ancestral property emotionally. He does it out of compulsion. Now people around, if suppose a divisional headquarter becomes too good, then people say divisional headquarter means like Ayodhya or Gorakhpur or Lucknow or Kanpur. Then people from smaller towns will try to get a plot or a flat or an accommodation there to shift their family. That's how urban migration starts. One of the reasons is employment. Good services like telephone, electricity. Now telephone, all companies have reached to all areas, but basically electricity, water, education, health. For these few things, people get attracted to. But once we create these infrastructures and services in rural areas, I don't think people would come, because now people in Delhi have realized, and people have started going out of Delhi either to their family in Goa if they have a residential accommodation, or to smaller places or rural areas, especially when Delhi faces that smoke problem in November, December, January. People have shifted. Rich people go to Singapore, poor people go to, then second rich people go to Goa, and then third level of rich people go to their native villages. So these problems will come. So very high intensity urbanization I would not recommend.
This is rightly said, but and you are actually what you are saying. It is absolutely correct. Why, when we say that cities are engines of growth, cities bring prosperity, but with prosperity, what we are also bringing, that is also a question mark. So, but this topic aside, I would like to know from you. This is the last question of this interview. How do you see the future of villages in the long term in India? Because we are talking lot of global issues, climate change, sustainable development goals, Paris Accord. So how do you see the role of Indian villages, Indian agriculture in developing a new age India?
See, I am very hopeful and optimistic. As I told you that we have to inculcate in young minds that being part of an agricultural ecosystem is very respectful, is very gainful in terms of money making or employment. Once we start doing that, we create good services and infrastructure in rural areas. There is no dearth of it. We connect them with global market. Why are we talking of local mandis only? We connect with global market, and I can share a video of my Gud Mahotsav where all my jaggery farmers are connected now globally. So once their product goes globally, once their produce goes globally, they get good. I am quite hopeful. We have to do a very conscious thinking and curating the minds of young boys and girls that it's good to have good urban center, but it is not panacea of very good life in all ways. It has its pluses, it also has its minuses. Now, if you see in terms of environment, why Kerala is good for tourism today?
Because of its environment.
Why? That is because they, for some reason, industrialization has not taken place. So another sector got automatically developed, and it is equally remunerating. If there would have been industry, there would have been 100 industrialists. But today, in the tourism sector in Kerala, every family is into the tourism of economics of tourism in Kerala, the ecosystem of tourism in Kerala. So that's the advantage. So we have to create an alternative environment where, and it has to have an eco environment, so that even in rural areas you see beautiful things, and there are pearls lying here and there. It's not. There are very excellent uh, small experiments
Yes,
in
yes.
rural area. So best practices or uh, good experiments in rural area, and very good uh, uh, economic centers in rural area, which needs to be highlighted so that people try to learn and emulate.
So the new age India, you are trying to say that is not necessarily that will emerge from cities, but can also come from our
Yes.
rural areas. Thank you so much, sir, for your time and telling us how our villages can play an important role in development of new age India that we are trying to build for our future generation. Thank you so much for your
Thank you.
time.
Thank you very much.